Welcome everyone to Therapeutic Astrology Podcast by me, Manna. And today we are joined by Matt Powers, who works with a unique, lesser known blend of astrology, symbolism, numerology, essential to understanding our personal rhythms before immersing ourselves in the larger rhythms of the universe. This is from an email by you, Matt. So, welcome and please expand on my introduction there.
Wow. I wrote that? No.
Yes, you did. I think I
Well, thank
pieced
you.
the sentences together a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. And I think where I usually start with people is like, well, what do I do? People ask you that all the time. When people ask you what you do, how do you say your role in
I
the
lie. I just lie.
you lie?
No. But that's that can be pretty long. So it depends who it is. It can be a therapist, it could be astrologer. Depends who asks.
Sure.
So yeah, what do
Well,
you
I've been working with that because I find, and you might see in my chart, the with as much Aquarian energy as I have, that finding a label has been difficult. But what I think I do best is I provide guidance,
Yeah.
and that guidance is based around the framework of astrology, and then the tool that I use to find that astrological insight or the cosmic insight is the deck of playing cards.
Hmm.
Now, how I came to find that has very much a lot to do with the rhythms that I spoke of in that email. And what's interesting, I think, is about my story is I didn't go searching for astrology. Astrology found me in a way, and the cards found me in a really unique way. I wasn't really interested or curious about astrology at all. And I was in therapy, which I'd been in for most of my adolescence and adult life, mainly for treating a very common diagnosis, at least here in the States, which is ADHD.
Yeah, okay.
And so from a young age, it was like, what are we going to do with this guy?
Okay.
It's all over the place. And um, I found that diagnosis through a variety of therapists and tests and things like that. And I found myself in adulthood very much battling this feeling of like I want to figure this out. And I found a therapist who said, well, we need to go the pharmaceutical route, which I had been on in the past. And so I obliged
Mhm.
and started taking uh, a prescription stimulant for ADHD.
Mhm.
That didn't end up working out so well, but I was still on it. But a few years into this therapy, I found myself really starting to understand that there were some rhythms, and maybe the medication was helping me slow things down or speed things up or something. But I was convinced that I could feel and sense the rhythm. You would ask a question about astropathy, right? And astropathy is in some circles is the understanding that there is a sensory experience or a feeling of our cosmic nature or our own cosmic patterns. And so I brought that up with my therapist over and over and over again, and I was convinced that there was like a numerical structure. I just couldn't figure out where it was. And at the same time, she introduced me to a book, and the book was called Play Your Cards Right. And her office was just down the hall from the author Alexander Dunlop, who had written this book. And this book explored in a very digestible way the numbers and symbols that are held within the deck of playing cards and the story that they tell. And so beyond, let's say, just the story that they tell, there's a system inside of the cards that was released or discovered, you could say, in the 1800s. And so I started to dive into this book, and it was like decades of therapy in just a few short pages.
Oh,
And it really started to open my eyes to, oh, all of these cycles and these seasons that I feel like I can tune into. There's a structure here that actually aligns with what I'm feeling. And so I explored that more and more, and it really was starting to feel like there's something here. And then a few years later, I at the time I was a photographer and filmmaker in New York City. And so I had a very fast-paced life, and it was very fulfilling. It was just a different kind of fulfilling. And a few years after being introduced to this, I had a very profound experience through the death of my mother. And the death of my mother opened up a channel in me that I didn't expect.
huh.
And all of a sudden, I'm able to put together all of these patterns and signs and symbols of the material world. And now I'm sharing it with other people, and they're telling me that what I'm saying actually means something to them. And they're often questioning how I would know something like that. So it's a bit of a psychic sensitivity that has opened up. And I'm also going through a grieving period. So it feels a little bit chaotic that I'm now being spoken to by the material world in this powerful way. And there's a little light bulb that goes off. Oh yeah, I have this deck of cards that I learned about a few years ago. Maybe they can speak to me, so I'm not trying to read every license plate that, that drives by. And so that's where I started. That's really what got me started on this journey of using numbers and symbols as a guidebook. And so that allowed me to dive deeper into the conceptual model that is held within the deck of playing cards.
Oh man, I got so many questions for you. Okay, yeah, so I see it's hard to put all of that introduction into a title, and I couldn't find really a title on your website, so that's why I thought I'm just gonna read what you said in your email. but um, but I love that we can have this deeper conversation and get to know, you know, it's. I don't think ever a title is fulfilling. It's never enough because we each have our story, and you certainly, that's certainly inspiring already. Okay, let me see. I got questions written down for you, but I just feel like from what you just said, I'm curious about all of that therapy you mentioned. Like, so what kind of therapy, and did you? So I realized that then you were opened up, and this whole numerical system opened up for you. But just in the therapy, what did that help you with anything? And how do you look at it today, therapy?
Well, therapy, I mean, the history of the word therapy and therapeutic, it used to mean something different, but of course we brought it into the Western world, um, and now it's much more institutionalized. So what the therapy was from a young age was, hey, you're not conforming.
Ah, okay.
So you need to conform.
Mm,
And sure, some of that rebellion, which I'm naturally disposed to, it was inappropriate and
no,
uh,
but like
it,
therapy shouldn't be about conforming. That really hurts my heart just hearing it.
well, when you're a 12, 13-year-old kid and your behavior is just consistently outside of the patterns of the norm, something's got to give. And so I don't blame anybody for that. And I think that therapy has some room to evolve.
Yeah.
And I think it is, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of therapies that are evolving, and I hope that younger people are exposed to a lot of the new therapies. But I was exposed to just more traditional therapy of like, what's going on? Why are you acting like this?
Okay.
And okay, well, based on what you've told me, it sounds like ADHD is the likely case. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you on a pharmaceutical regimen that includes this particular medicine and see how it works. And whether or not the medicine had anything to do with it, my behavior and my schooling did improve. And then I found myself in my 20s and 30s, and I was moving into a new career in photography and filmmaking. And I was really not someone who was designed to learn very well.
Okay.
In the sense of being able to sit at a computer or sit in front of a book for a really long time.
Oh.
And so I found myself back in a situation where I was like, I really want to thrive in this career path,
Mm.
and I don't have the tools. So I found a therapist who then um, provided me with a way to learn.
Was that good? A good therapist then? I mean, was that something interesting?
Now that I look back, I wouldn't change anything because it brought me to where I am now, but I ended up
Um,
back on a stimulant that ended up taking a long time to get off of.
okay.
And there are a lot of other details that are woven in there that are less important, but what it allowed me to do is do the thing that I know I'm not necessarily created to do, which is to, like, sit at a computer for 10 hours at a time.
No.
And some people are really well, that's what they're designed in that
Yeah.
way, and it helps, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's just not how I was designed.
No.
And what the cards did, and what this introduction to this method of self-discovery did, is it gave me permission to understand that, and to no longer be seeking some sort of outside influence that will allow me to be something that I'm not.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that pains me, that that's been the experiences, but that is quite, the normal. Yeah, that's the way it used to be, and it can be. I know it still is, but like you say, it is changing therapy. I I feel when you are this kind of weird mystical person and you want to
Mm.
enter into society, therapy is the place, where you can actually combine things, because it does not have to be like what you've experienced, it can be a blend of methods working with your soul, you know. That's what it's all about. But okay, so now let's get into more of then what you opened up to that through a death. That's really interesting. And of course, it was a certain person who died, your mother. Um, and that opened you up to, I mean, I'm getting the sense that you were seeing numbers all over and adding them up and interpreting them. Is that how it was? How did you experience that
It was
opening?
a combination of material world, so putting what I would call like the signs and symbols of nature and creation together, especially when things seemed like they were a little bit out of balance. It was like when I would hear somebody speaking out of my peripheral hearing, and hear something that stood out, I would just take it as a note. And then for some reason, what they said would match up with something else that I experienced that day. And then later on, I would see somebody and talk about that, and that would be something that actually happened in their day that was relevant to them. And so it was like I was starting to see that I could put together these pieces and understand when it was something that was relevant versus when it was something that was just mundane.
Mm,
And yet I was starting to become obsessive about finding the difference. And so the cards became my tool, so I didn't have to go out and just
right.
obsess. Yeah.
Yeah, because that my teacher in the Kabbalah, she's also like, it can get a lot too much because she'll like pick up everywhere where there's numbers and she'll put it into the Kabbalah like that. So I can feel that narrowing down. Just okay, focus on the cards. That can be not only a release but also something that would enable you to read even better, right? To give you that context of the cards. So do you work with normal playing cards?
Normal playing cards, yes, the deck of 52 playing cards. Have you ever thought about where they come from?
I've thought about it. and I, I mean, I've written many histories of the tarot, that probably should only be one, but there I feel there are many stories about where the tarot came from. And so the that was the precursor for tarot, wasn't it? That was before.
I like to live in the world of possibility. All
Yeah.
right. So we're gonna be playing a lot with like imagination today
Okay.
versus written history or any type of
Gets
I don't
confusing.
know. It gets well, there are a lot of different stories that you can follow, and if you want to believe a certain narrative, you can find the enough evidence to make your case.
Yeah, but let me know where do they come from?
So the story that I believe, actually, we're gonna take a step back and um we're going to look at the Civil War.
Mm,
Okay. So imagine you are a soldier that just battled in the Civil War and you've seen hundreds of thousands of your fellow citizens die.
mm,
And you're coming out of that, and there's these ideas from people like Emerson and Thoreau and Lincoln who have really changed the landscape of what's possible, of what this world is supposed to look like after many, many hundreds of years of a certain style of living and a certain style of identity. And imagine you're this soldier and you find yourself post-Civil War and you're united with this older European man who happens to know all of this information about you. And the way that he knows it is by taking a deck of playing cards out and looking at the numbers and symbols on them.
yeah.
You're in this vulnerable state because I mean, look at where we are now. I would say it's probably similar to now, where it's like the institutions got us into this war that hundreds of thousands of us died, and everybody's questioning, what is this? What are
Mm,
we doing here? So people are searching now. They're searching in the unseen. They're searching
mm,
through psychics and mystics
yeah.
and astrology, right? That was a really big time, a really big transition from institutional religion into expanding consciousness and what are we doing here? Asking the big questions because we had just gone through this traumatic event and the
Mm,
collective trauma that we were all sharing because we're living in the midst of massive casualty in this country.
mm,
And so there's this man, his name's Olney Richmond, and as the story goes, he meets this old Parisian man, old European man who knows everything about him and shares with him the secrets that are held within the deck of playing cards. And so what the book that he wrote is called, it's the Mystic Test Book. And you
Yes.
had
The
written
test book. Yeah, I guess I looked it up, and it's you can actually you can find it online for free if people wanted to check it out. The Mystic Test
the
Book.
Mystic Test Book.
Yeah.
So what the Mystic Test Book speaks of is that there was a group of astrologers thousands of years ago that were known as the Magos or the priests of the stars. We know of them most famously as the Magi. We just had their feast day on January 6th. They
Oh,
were the
but
three
yeah.
wise men, the
Mm,
three kings who visited Jesus around the time of his birth.
mm,
And what did they do? They followed the North Star. They
mm.
knew that there was something important happening. They knew a king was being born. They understood the patterns of the heavens, and they traveled around sharing those messages with those who crossed their path. Now, what I believe is, and what also is spoken about in the Mystic Test Book, is that this is all inherited from the civilization of Atlantis.
Mm.
And depending on how you believe the progression, if you have more of a theosophical view where we're in what the fifth dimension of the seven dimensions of or the seven layers of our existence.
Mm.
And the previous one was the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were more of this group of people that were really intertwined with nature.
And
And now we're in,
when you
go
say it
ahead.
all when you say it all originated with the Atlantis, what are you referring to? All that is in the
The,
Mystic
the
Test?
Mystic Test. So
Okay.
astrology essentially is what I'm saying.
Okay.
The fundamentals, the patterns that were captured over thousands of years were
Mm.
inherited by this group known as the Magi.
Mm.
Now, the Magi were, are you familiar with Zoroaster or the Zoroastrian?
You can explain it.
So Zoroaster was a prophet who uh, the timing of his life was is questionable. It's like 7,000 to 9,000 BC, sometime around there. And I'm sure that there are historians that will correct me there, but let's we're working in the realm of possibility.
Sure.
And so Zoroaster was one of the first prophets to bring the idea of monotheism
Mm.
to civilization. And at the same time, it seemed that he had inherited this astrological understanding. And so his priests went out and connected the heavens, the sky, to the language of creation. And the sky being this mirror for us, right, of the patterns. And the ideas that they carried around this little book. What would a book have looked like thousands of years ago? It would have looked like a deck of cards
Oh, okay.
because we didn't have book bindings, right?
Mhm.
And language back then was just different. And especially when it came to sharing ideas, a lot of it was done through symbolism. And so the Magi were known to carry this little book around with them that was filled with numbers and symbols and other images
Mm.
that would allow them to share their messages with those who crossed their path.
Mm.
So imagine that's then translated and retranslated and tried to be canceled by this authority and this institution, and it gets turned into a game, it gets turned into a book, it gets turned into all of these different things to try and steer us away from its actual power.
And oh my, okay. Mm, I have a question. I have different questions, Matt, because I'm also
Yes,
thinking of like just your whole background and how amazing it is, and how that we are learning today, and many people are connecting ADHD with ADHD symptoms with some kind of superpower, actually being
absolutely.
really good at something that our society is just not, decorated for. So I'm sitting with that as well, but of course I'm also thinking about what is it that these cards then do? Uh, so you get out of this war, and you meet a
So
guy
we get
named
out of this war.
and
So that's a yes. I could go into the history for a long time, but I actually like to live more in what the cards do. So thank you for moving us in that direction because the cards present in a couple of different ways. One is they are a precise model of our Earth's revolution around the sun.
hmm,
Most Many people will already have made this connection before, but many people don't. This is often the party trick or the mind blown moment when I share this with people that there are 52 cards in a deck, 52 weeks in a year. There are four suits and four seasons. There are 13 cards in each suit. There are 13 weeks in each season. And when you add up each card in the deck, ace as one, king is 13, you get 364. And then when you add the Joker, you get 365 and the second Joker for leap years.
ah, yeah, oh great,
So that's the party trick. To me, the power is in the symbols and the numbers actually beautifully embodying the human experience.
mm,
And so that's where, for me, somebody with ADHD who couldn't organize my human experience. And
yeah,
so I was always looking for a way to feel organized. I find this system and I'm just blown away with how it really well it organizes my experience.
oh, yes, beautiful.
So
I recognize that. Yeah.
where the symbols come in is the heart, which is the first symbol in the deck, and that is our emotional experience,
Mm.
our
So that
emotional
relate
self.
to that would relate to water if we're using the elements. So you would
What
own you. Would you combine it
Yes.
with elements?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Yes. So the heart is water in the elements. It's spring in the seasons. It's birth in the cycle of life. If we think of what we are when we come out of the womb, we're just pure emotion.
Mm.
And then we evolve into our mind. And that's represented by the suit of clubs. Clubs is represented by the element of air.
Mm.
It represents growth, the season of summer. And the mind is our intellect, it's our communication, it's how we think.
Mm.
And then we move into our third cycle, which is represented by the suit of diamonds. And diamonds represents the material world. So anything we can experience with our five senses, also the season of autumn, or fall, or harvest, and also the element of earth. When I say diamonds as well, and I think of diamonds, we think of money or value. And
Yeah.
so this is an area that I spend a lot of time with clients, is talking about value system. And when I say value system, it's how we interact with the material world.
Ah.
Where do we spend our resources, our time, our energy, our money, our attention?
Mhm.
And so a lot of people think value system and they don't necessarily attach it to what I believe is the best way to look at it is the truth, is what our heart and our mind bring into reality, into form.
Mm.
And that's how we live our lives and how we prioritize our time and our energy.
And is there one more?
There's one more, and that is the spade. And the spade is the it's the suit of death or winter, and it is our physical self. So the spade represents the physical being, the embodiment of the soul. And so
Mm.
the spade is like the seed that never dies. And so it keeps coming back and rebirthing.
Would that be fire?
That would be fire.
Ah. Ah. See,
And
that's
the spade is like spade is like our physical action
mm,
and our spiritual embodiment.
mm. It's really good. So when you know the tarot and you know the elements and it kind of all connects like that. Um, yeah, I can really feel that. So and people, you have certain draws, right? Like in tarot, you would have a certain way to put up the cards when people have questions.
Well, so that's where the Mystic Test Book comes in, because what the Mystic Test Book showed is that there is a certain way to use the cards in this form of quadration. So there's a certain way to put the deck together and then to break the cards up that allows us to see the 52 cards in a special order so that I can take somebody's birthday, their particular day of that particular day of the year, and build a fragmented reality around it. And that sounds a little scientific, but it's like it's more of a constant astrological profile for that date.
A fragmented reality.
Or that is our reality, right? It is fragmented.
Yes, that's right. Oh, I'm like overwhelmed with questions for you right now. I feel like you're opening the doors to something really grand. Actually, on your website, I have this quote where you say you are devoted to weaving ancient wisdom and cosmic insight into modern life. Maybe that's what's going on right now. Ancient wisdom, cosmic insight into modern life. And now we're talking about the fragmented reality, maybe that that
Mhm.
modern life. What do you have some comments on that sentence?
Yeah, I mean, what is wisdom? I mean, when I think of ancient, it's like it's pre-modern times. In some ways, I would even say ancient is what we don't even have written history of, right? Because anything that feels written, it feels like modernity has stepped in. But when I think of wisdom, it's just pattern recognized over time
Mm.
that has been able to stand the test of time. And ancient wisdom is valuable because it predates our modern institutions, right? Who have commoditized and um,
Yeah.
taken the wisdom and modernized it, which to me, modernity is like every so often we relabel or reframe or reinterpret ancient wisdom so that
Mm,
we can like claim authorship over it.
mm,
And then all we do, I think modernity is like it tests ancient wisdom, and then whatever survives is continues to be ancient wisdom.
mm.
And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like the fundamentals of the cards take all of the noise away. And what ADHD, if I feel it, I didn't anticipate this, the conversation being so much about ADHD, but here we are.
Yeah.
And what ADHD does is it makes everything a lot noisier. It's like you're distracted by everything. But
Mm,
what the cards do is they simplify this experience into these four different elements.
mm,
And so for somebody who's constantly in a mode of distraction and not able to put all the pieces together in the same way, yet also has this very sensitive intuition and this very sensitive body, very reactive to sounds and smells, right? You find a lot of neurodivergent people who are very sensitive. I'm hyper sensitive,
yeah.
which is difficult if I'm in a public place, but it's wonderful if I'm in a one-on-one reading with somebody and I'm able to understand where they are and feel and sense them in a way that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise without this magic power.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
I don't know either, but it was wonderful, and I love it. It's opening up. Uh, yeah, and I'm yeah. So you're saying that it organizes your experience, and I'm also getting the sense that it's opening up, that meeting this ancient work, this cosmic insight, that it has also opened up for, well, not consensus reality, apropos having to adapt and conform. And of course, as a child, you know, we are not, we are not agents over ourselves in the way that we are as adults. But
yeah.
but now as adults, we get to say, hey, I believe there's a different kind of world, and you being an Aquarian, I mean, you are out of this world per nature, right? So opening up into that field is, they probably help you do that as well.
You said something that stood out, and it's cosmic insight. And I think that what the cards provide is a language, just like astrology or the tarot
Mm,
or a lot of different methods of self-discovery that predate a lot of the technologies we're working with now. But cosmic insight is simply a form of language that is connected to creation.
yeah. Yeah.
And what we've done is let's say God or the divine has created an order of things, right? We
Mm,
see it in everything. I was taking a walk this morning and I was admiring the birds they're all flying together from the light to the light, and it's like that's a divine order. There's a rhythm in which they do those things.
mm,
And what we as humans do is we're here in a cycle that feels like reason has become so much of the driving force, which has taken us out of rhythm because we try to reason with everything rather than just flowing.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so what God or the divine has created is an order of things, and then order is observable. So we've spent thousands of years observing it. Observations allow us to turn that into wisdom,
Mm,
because wisdom identifies the patterns over time.
mm,
And then wisdom, of course, precedes law because we build law around all these other different parts of it. So the way that I take that and then I shift the conversation into the cards and how I utilize the cards have been an evolution because there are there's this system, and similar to astrology has a birth chart.
mhm,
And that identifies this beautiful moment where you took your first breath. And as astrologers, we can look at that chart and say, oh, hey, look at your nodes. This is where you're coming from. This is why you're here to what you're here to learn, where
Mm.
your sun and your moon are. And we're able to put all of the pieces together. And that's really the foundation. And then as soon as you take your first breath, you're in transit
Yeah.
and you're moving through the cosmos. So you have to now interact with the natural change that is happening all around you. And so in the cards, rather than looking at a natal chart, we look at the hand that you've been dealt. And
Yeah.
so these are a series of cards that are in a particular order that show you a glimpse of who you are and why you're here. The way that I approach readings is I start with the nodes. So I do bring in the Western astrology because I really like to say, okay, well, why did you receive these cards? Why were you born into these cards? And for me, the best place to start is, well, what are you here to learn? And the nodes give us a good idea of what we're here to learn.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
what a lot of times what we're already really good at. I find that a lot of times, like um, a Capricorn North node, they're very empathetic, but they're actually supposed to be less empathetic in this lifetime. They're supposed to care less about how their actions affect everybody else.
Mm.
They've done that in those past lives. They've been the householder, they've been the empath, the mother, the Cancer South node. Now they're here to be the leader and to understand that by taking really good care of themselves, they actually lift everybody else up.
Mm.
But they slow everybody else down when they get into everybody's business, right?
Mm.
And that's what they want to do. They want to try to save everybody and they put themselves last.
And then that as a starting point.
And so that's the starting point. And then we look at the hand that they've been dealt. And in this case, I usually look at nine of the cards. There are more cards than that in your hand, but the nine cards would be your uh, sun and your moon. So there's a card for each of those. And then you have a card for each planet, Mercury through Neptune.
Okay.
And what that allows me to do, that's what that allowed me to do from the beginning was understand, wow, there's a rhythm. The sun is this very outward energy that I carry. And then the moon, of course, is more of my subconscious.
Mm.
And then Mercury is how my mind works. And what I've discovered in at least in this system is Mercury is not necessarily how I communicate, but it's how my mind is, what my mind does. And
Mm.
then the other planets are in charge of how I then use that information, right? Mercury is receiving the energy
Picking it
and
up.
then
Uh,
and then it's delivering it to the other planets to use, right? Venus is then how I create with it and
uh,
how I commune with it. And then Mars is how I act with it. Jupiter is how I expand and receive and am recognized for the work that I do. Saturn is then how I learn.
yeah.
And Uranus is how I grow and expand. And those big shifts. And then Neptune is how I escape my dreams and my fears.
How you
And
escape?
so how I escape.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's how I see the progression of, I look at the seven planets as this progression
Mm.
where it's the mission is within Mercury because it's the mission is what you're building in your mind and how the words you're going to use to express yourself.
Mm.
Then Venus is then how you connect with others. It's our connection.
Mm.
Then Mars is activation. So you're then acting upon the mission and the connection.
Mm.
And then what does Jupiter come in and say, hey, you've done some work. Here's a little bit of recognition for that.
Oh.
And then Saturn comes in and says, not so fast. Don't get too excited. You have some lessons to learn. You're not doing everything right.
Uh,
So that's more of a reflection.
um,
And then you move into Uranus, which is more expansion,
mm.
evolution. And then Neptune, which is saying, okay, get out of the busyness of the mundane and go enjoy yourself, or at least dream of enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
And what the cards do is from that fundamental place, they set that tone in a specific order. Then if you go a little bit deeper, each of those planets represent a 13-year cycle in your life. And so your first 13 years are represented by Mercury, your second 13 years, Venus, and so on and so forth. So there's all these different cycles within, because when we move from the hand that you've been dealt, which is more like the natal chart, then we can move into the cycles and the transits. So each year on your birthday, there's a series of cards that change. And this is where you can have both a predictive astrology in here and also start to understand your specific rhythms, right? We just had a new year, and the new year often is this time where we say, oh, we're going to start something new, a resolution. We're going to make a commitment. And oftentimes, the majority of us fail in that. And I believe it's because most of us aren't born on January 1st.
Mm.
So we're trying to make a commitment during a time where our rhythm is not ready for that commitment.
Ah, good point.
And
Ah,
so I work with a lot of my clients around this time of year where we say, okay, where are you right now in your particular rhythm?
mm,
Because you can make commitments. There's never a bad time to make a commitment, but I want you to make a commitment that works within the reality of where you are right now.
mm.
And so we can take the yearly rhythms and then we can start to take it to a more micro perspective where there's weekly rhythms and there's daily rhythms. And so
And
that's all based on the day of the week that you were born and the time that you were born. So that's where we can start to really get more granular. I don't like to go too granular because you can become, once again, it can become obsessive. But one of the things that really changed my life was understanding the patterns of the day that of the week that I was born versus living within the constraints and the confinement of the daily work week that we've created with 5 days and then a weekend. And so
yeah,
I'm born on a Saturday. And
okay,
I've always found that working the weekends was actually my preferred way of living.
okay. So is that how it
And,
works? It depends on
and
what weekday you were born?
yes. And so the way that I've designed it, and this isn't some objective truth, but to me,
No.
it's like, why don't we start to open up our field of awareness of the what our rhythm is, right? This all goes back to ADHD and trying to figure out, like, I have a sense of
Yeah.
what my rhythm is, yet I'm living in a world that's telling me to live a certain way that's out of my rhythm.
No, just the insanity of everyone. I don't know if it is where you live, but where I live, it's like everyone goes to the work or the school at the exact same time every morning.
Yeah.
It just creates massive traffic and, go home at the exact same time. I mean, there's maybe a couple of hours of space there, but it's just insanity to me. Why wouldn't we mix that up with working at different hours so we can all be here?
Yeah.
Just simple fact like that is showing like a rhythm that's just, oh, it has to be like that. Everyone has to be a morning
Well,
person.
what the structure of the cards and this system allowed me to do is to just take time and organize it. And through that, build an awareness that says, okay, well, Saturday is my Mercury day. And so in the cards, we don't look at the sun and the moon as having their own day like we do in the normal week, which sun day is the day of the sun, Monday is the day of the moon. And we look at it as the 7 days of the week align with the seven planets. So
Mm,
your first day of the week is Mercury. I call that the mission day. That's where you're getting yourself organized. It's a work day. Whatever day you're born. I'm born on a Saturday, so Saturday is a big work day for me.
mm,
Then Sunday is going to be my Venus day. So your day two is Venus. That's more of your connection day. So I'm going to try to set up readings and client events and time with friends and time with family. That's Venus time, creation time. Mars is the third day. That's big work day because Mars is all about action and work. That's Monday for me. And then Jupiter Day. Jupiter Day is a time to reward yourself and receive and be recognized. So maybe you do give yourself a break if that's what reward and recognition is. I like to do a lot of work on that day because I find that I enjoy my work. So that's reward for me. So I'll set meetings and things like that that I want to be on is a Tuesday for me. Now Wednesday is the only day of the week I give myself off
okay.
because that's my Saturn day.
Mm.
We have a collective Saturn day. It's called Saturday, and we've turned it into the busiest day of the year, of the week. And so Saturn's day says, hey, this is a good time to rest, reflect, turn off the noise. We're constantly being fed all these inputs.
Mm,
And our systems need a time to settle. And that's what Saturn wants us to do, is allow it to settle, just relax.
mm.
Maybe
Okay.
learn a couple of lessons through that silence, through that disconnect. And then we move into Uranus, which is all about work. Get back to work. It's the last big work day. And then Neptune, give yourself a chance to escape. Go watch a movie, listen to music, take a walk on the beach. And
Yeah.
so that's how I design my week, and that's how I found my rhythms are best
Nice.
lived is through that, right? So there's this universal beat that we're all living within, and there's a collective energy that we're all living within. And then if we're in tune with our rhythms, it allows us to understand the universal beat better and work within it and not just be so frazzled and upset with how the natural order of things is. It allows us to see the suffering for what it is. It allows us to see the joy for what it is and live as an observer of all of it.
Mm, yeah. Beautiful, Ahmed. And I'm just feeling like time is flying with you. I'm
I
like,
know.
what's going on? Another big question. No, okay, I'm gonna wait with that. I wanna just stay on. We've been dealt a hand. Let's finish that first, if we can't finish that
Yeah.
topic. We've been dealt a hand. So this is like a term you have, the hand that we've been dealt. And how do you talk about that? I'm thinking, can we do anything about what we've been dealt? You know, fate versus choice here.
You've heard the expression before, right? The you've been
Yeah.
dealt a hand, or
Yeah.
play the hand you've been dealt, or the book that my friend Alexander Dunlop wrote, Play Your Cards Right. Uh, all of these all of these sayings that we've used that refer to the cards. You know, to me, you've been dealt a hand is another way of saying like, well, you were born at a specific time. Here's your, how would you say it in Western astrology? You've been given a chart, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we just don't have the same, it doesn't have the same ring
It's,
to it.
it's like these are the stars you were born under, or something like that. Couldn't maybe say.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Now, when it comes to fate versus choice, this is, of course, is a highly debatable and complicated um, conversation. But what I look at is fate. So fate, let's call fate the hand that we've been dealt. It sets the conditions.
Yeah.
And then choice, it determines how we respond to it.
Yeah. And can I just say before you go on, the reason why it's important is, I come to this reading. Is he just gonna say, I can't do anything about it? I have clients like that who are like afraid I'm gonna say, you're gonna die next week, that sort of thing. Like, and that's maybe an extreme, but just the notion that,
I get that all the time. Yeah.
right, that
Yeah.
like, okay, this is how it is, and you can't do anything about it. Or actually, is there a choice here? And I'm sure that you also would argue that there is a choice, but then when you use that, this term like you've been dealt a hand, it does seem like maybe there is a big part of it that we can't do a lot about. Over to you.
Well, it goes to me, it always goes back to pattern recognition.
Mm. Yeah.
And the hand that we've been dealt is simply a language that allows us to recognize patterns. What is pattern recognition? It's wisdom. What are we doing in this lifetime? We're learning.
Mm.
So what comes out, what becomes our truth is wisdom. So it's pattern recognition. It's learned patterns. Now, pattern recognition, the way that I see choice evolving is pattern recognition becomes pattern like integration. So then we're able to integrate into these patterns. And then where we really transcend to is pattern creation.
Mm. Yeah.
where we're able to create our own patterns
Yeah.
and we're able to make decisions that then build out a framework and build out a life that is the life that we want, not the life that we are forced into. Now,
Mm.
life's still going to happen. You're going to die. You're going to get sick. Loved ones are going to betray you.
Mm.
That's life.
Mm.
But recognizing the patterns of those so that you can sit in it and have a profound human experience, right?
Mm.
I wouldn't want to take away the human experience of losing a mother. What a profound human experience that was. Wow. I don't want to be there all the time. I can't imagine living an entire life like that.
Mm.
But looking back, it go, wow, that was something.
Mm. And that is because it opened you up as well, that it wasn't only grief.
That I'm sure has to do with maybe my reflection of that experience.
Mm.
And it's taught me to look at life as a series of those experiences versus that, life is happening to me and oh, that sucks again.
Like that. Yeah.
But to go back to that fate versus choice, it's like you've been dealt a hand. Now,
Mm.
how do you learn to work with that hand so that you can eventually start to build with that hand
Mm.
instead of instead of just always managing our circumstances, right?
Mm.
The evolution of the patterns, it's not, I didn't come up with that, right?
Mm.
I mean, I just heard the other day, like Tony Robbins talking about that. Tony Robbins is always evolving his thinking, and
Yeah.
I don't know, he's never considered himself uh, I mean, I don't know what he considers himself. He's a motivational speaker, he's an entrepreneur, he's a billionaire. Um,
Yeah. But he's also a Pisces. Just
I
saying.
know. Yeah.
Just saying. So I think he can pick up a few things.
Yeah, and what I think I appreciate from him, I get a lot more insight from older, not unalived people.
Mm.
Their writings typically inspire me more, but you can't deny someone like Tony Robbins who's had such an impact on the collective and is
Yeah.
able to articulate his words in a way that really do make sense of a complicated human experience.
Yeah. And like also that the influence of collective movements, that we are seeing a movement towards spirituality, even though, people can call it that or not.
Yeah.
So maybe actually this leads me to the question I was thinking about before, which is what is mysticism to you?
Mm. So if I was to go back and think about what mysticism is to me, I think it's different for everybody. And for me, it was a learned experience of what that is. And so I grew up in um, I wouldn't say dual religious, but my mother grew up Catholic. And so that's the direction we went from a perspective of worship. My dad has Jewish lineage. And so it was Catholic and Judaism were the religions that I uh, were most closely impacted by, and Catholicism being the primary. And from a very young age, I felt the presence of God in the Catholic sense. And I felt it in church with kids singing and the chills that would run through my spine when that experience all the way through as a young adult sitting in adoration for 2 hours with a consecrated host and finding myself in this meditative state that I could just sit there for hours at a time. But what I never really aligned with was the institutional idea that this is the only way and that God is in this and that God is in heaven and we're all separate from that. And so to me, what mysticism does is identifies that God, the divine, the mystery is all around us. It's not separate from it's not separate or only in heaven. So it puts it into two categories, right? God is transcendent, beyond our comprehension,
Mm.
and God is immanent, so present within creation.
Yeah.
And so what mysticism to me is the end of that. It's identifying that it's both.
Hmm. Hmm.
And some of my favorite mystics, like the Christian mystics, like Brother Lawrence, all he talks about is practicing the presence of prayer. He says, I've abandoned all particular uh, forms of prayer. Now I just pray with my attention.
Mm.
He talks about flipping his omelet in the kitchen, and I'm there talking to God, right? And it doesn't matter where you are. Or Kabir, the Sufi mystic, he talks about laughing when people tell him they need to go on pilgrimage to find God.
Hmm.
And that's what the mystics were teaching us. They were teaching us that God is beyond comprehension and part of this creation.
Right here, and you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's both. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
And to me, it's like that's what the stars are, right? That's what the sky is. It's like the language of creation. And that's what Genesis says, right? It's like let them be signs for seasons and
Mm.
for days and for years. It's like that's how we communicate with time. That's how we know what time is.
Mm. And we're made of it, and we can also interact with them. Okay, beautiful. But I
Did
think,
that answer your question?
yeah, I forget about my questions. I just listen
Well,
to
it was what is mysticism? And I know I had to take
it.
a step back because I think that it's an important question for
Yeah.
everybody to answer individually within themselves. Because for me, mysticism came from somewhere. It didn't just like I read it in a book and I'm like, oh, I'm having a mystical experience. And then mystic arts is what I consider the realm in which I play and offer my services.
Yeah.
And the mystic arts is the ability to take that energy, that mystical energy, that agreement with the divine, that we are in a divine creation with a transcendent God that we cannot even comprehend,
Mm.
and work with the language of nature, which is the gift that we've received in order to have this human experience, but have a mirror to what the human experience is.
Yeah, it's like something like astrology is putting it into some kind of language, whereas the pure mystical experience could be, yeah, just pure experience,
Yeah.
sensation, resonance. So, but let's go to astrology, Matt. Don't you think we should?
Yeah. Let's do
Uh,
it.
so, I mean, you got my chart as well. Usually, my guests don't have that, but
I do. I actually have a surprise for you at the end, but we'll
oh,
wait. I want to hear your interpretation of my chart.
oh, oh, but it's not a full interpretation. You gotta know
I
that.
know. Yeah, yeah. I
That's a
just
podcast.
whatever you feel is calling you to share.
Yeah, I mean, I just, of course, immediately saw your new moon in Aquarius
Yeah.
and in that beautiful sixth house that resembles your ascendant in Virgo. So that's someone highly qualified. That's someone highly skilled and qualified and not settling for less. That's what I think. Um so yeah, and of course when you talk about ADHD, I'm still evolving in that, but there are some signatures for people, who identify with those diagnosis criteria. And Aquarius, because it's so out of this world, it can definitely, uh, check out of whatever is this accepted norm. So I've seen that in Aquarian people, not being able to be in whatever society sets up for them. But apart from that, it's like, whenever you were to find, which of course you have, but I'm just looking at your chart here, whenever this person were to find his calling, it would be like highly detailed and refined and technically sound. It would be like really good, like a surgeon good. That's like a big part of what spoke to me. But there are many pieces to your astrology. But what do you say just about this part of you?
Yeah, and I hear you speaking a lot to the Virgo ascendant,
Yeah.
right? And finding, I found myself in a lot of different careers, and I I thrived in them for the most part, but none of them felt like a calling.
Mm,
None of them felt like a vocation or a sign from somewhere else that said, no, this is why you're here. And I had always really admired people who had that, and almost had an envy there. I really wanted that. And then when I found this, it was almost immediate that I felt like I was reading a language that I already knew. So it was just like a remembering.
mm,
And the first time I sat with somebody for a reading and shared with them, it was it was like all of the information came together without a whole lot of study. It just came out.
amazing.
And then once I started to study and really spent a long time in devotion to this language, it became undeniable.
Mm,
And through that, it's been working in a fairly precise way,
yeah.
working with the rhythms that I now trust in so deeply, that these rhythms are taking me in down the path that I meant to be.
Mm,
Where I think prior to understanding this, I was moving at a speed that wasn't necessarily the speed I was meant to move.
yeah. I think that is a common Aquarian challenge because it is a very quick mind. And then if you also have some Earth, which, and we just live on planet Earth, then
Yeah.
we need to slow down. We need to slow down, even, but it's like you can, if you wanted to, go really, really quick. But then, yeah, but then that's, would bring up somatic challenges, of course. Yeah.
I
So,
think,
mm,
but I think the hardest part for me, if I was to not just put it all in to the positive, is the the Virgo and their perfection and needing everything to be so perfect and so precise in order for me to move forward. So I've really had to work with that energy of okay, it's progress is sometimes more important, and I can move past this. It's like nothing is perfect in this world. So why are you holding yourself to a standard that you're not holding anybody else to?
yeah. Oh, I really like that about this dichotomy in a way between the Virgo and the Aquarius because they both want the best for sure. They
Yeah.
both want the best, but then like you say, one is maybe more concerned about progressing, and the other just maybe want to stay until it's perfect. So I can sense that. Yeah. No, good stuff. And I think it makes sense in your chat as well, around just knowing the language and that direct experience from your Sagittarius planets there in the third house of communication. So yeah. Yeah. So Matt, what what are your plans now?
So I have a practice when I'm preparing for someone's reading.
Yeah.
And so most of my new clients, I do a lot of in-person work, as well as Zoom work, but a lot of my best work I think really is in person here in the Southern California area. And so I've designed a space that uh, allows for this brief 90-minute to 2-hour escape where we dive deep into the cards that you've been dealt and look at the forecast. So where you're going, where you've been, where you are right now.
Wonderful.
And when I'm getting ready for someone's reading, I'll take some time, and actually you might be able to see it back there. There's a typewriter.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so I sit at the typewriter and I just put some notes together. And
Like your channel. Is that it?
you could call it that.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it activates the session in a
Mm.
way. And so I did that for you. And
Oh,
so I prepared, and so this is what it looks like. So this is the chart. This has all your dates of your cycles in your
right.
year. And then this is what I uh put down for you.
Wow. So
Would you
just
like
I
would
would
you like to
love
hear
to
it?
hear that. I would love to hear it. So is it like you look at the chart and then you sit by the typewriter and then it just pours through you?
Yeah, the only rule I give myself is um I don't allow myself to put the names of the cards in here. I used to do that and I felt like it confused people. You
Hmm.
know, I just want to give people real practical information.
Okay.
If somebody wants to learn the cards, I would be happy to teach them.
Hmm.
But it just to me, if somebody's just coming for a 2 hour experience, if I spend too much time saying this number, that symbol, this and that, it takes up a lot of time and it confuses them and it takes away from the overall message. So what you will not hear in this is any speak of the cards, but it's all inspired by a series of cards. And so those cards, I only have two cards that are written on this, and they're written on the front page because you were born to play the seven of spades. Everybody on March 3rd is the seven of spades, which is the card of spirituality.
Okay.
Seven is the card of the number of spirit. Spade is the symbol of spirit. And so it's the card of faith. It's the card of spiritual action. It's the card of obstacles. And then your moon is the Jack of Spades, which is the card of the spiritual initiate. And so you're here in this lifetime having a spiritual initiation.
Oh God. I
Yeah.
think that is so true.
And so here's what I call your cosmic message. Are you ready?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Dearest Manna, born to adjust the way we receive the unseen. This is a lifetime of faith in action, of deep inquiry, of private contemplation, and learning to trust what we cannot always be proven, but is always felt. So it's learning to trust what cannot always be proven, but always felt. Gone are the lifetimes of seeking permission or approval from others. This life asks you to stand confidently in your own authority, and by doing so, show others what self-trust actually looks like.
Mm.
You are a natural born trendsetter. Welcome to a life at the front of the line. Just remember, being first means you meet the obstacles before anyone else. Still, people love you. They are drawn to your charm, your originality, and your rare ability to translate dreams into something tangible and alive. Curiosity is your compass. Truth is your connection device. You are here as a speaker of truth in this lifetime, one who names what others feel but struggle to articulate. And when it comes to material exchange, you thrive through diversity, multiple streams of income, varied expressions, a life that does not funnel itself into one channel. Family, chosen or otherwise, blesses you deeply, especially the young ones. They learn by watching you. Organization becomes one of your greatest teachers as you build as a framework that allows you to allows your creativity to move freely. As you build your life, your work becomes a gathering point, a place to form teams, share resources, and uplift both yourself and others. You are loved, truly deeply loved. As you close your 39th year, the year of the workaholic, you step toward a new chapter defined by spiritual love and unseen emotion. Purposeful work remains central, but now it is infused with feeling, intuition, and heart. This past year taught you how to use what you already have rather than endlessly searching for more. It was about choosing your own path, one aligned with your values. Endings are necessary. They are guiding you toward truth and fulfillment. In these final days, weeks, and the last month of year 39, let love in, Make space for it and trust that year 40 opens its door. Clarity will arrive exactly on time. And then I always like to look and see, all right, who's born on March 3rd that stands out? And this ties it all back to the Civil War.
It's actually, I've actually looked a few times just to bring me hope when I've been down. I'm like, is there anyone who succeeded with a chart similar to mine? But I haven't
One of the most influential March 3rd birthdays said this. They said, concentrate all your thoughts upon the work at hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus.
Okay.
Do you know who said that?
No.
Alexander Graham Bell.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember. Yeah, he's on my birthday.
Yeah. And so what did he do? He gave us a way to listen to each other.
Yeah, and connect. Yeah.
And if there's one thing that I've seen in both admiring the podcasts that you've created with other people and now experiencing it for myself, is you are a deeply talented listener.
Oh, I can almost not receive all of this. I can, it is, you must get that if you do this with clients. Like, that is, I mean, thank you so much. And it was a
Thank
lot.
you.
It was like, that, but that is, I mean, I feel like compared to what I did with your chart, we shouldn't compare.
No comparison necessary, but
No comparison. Don't
if
compare
I were to
ever.
go through this, I could say born to adjust the way we receive the unseen, seven of spades, right? Then I go into gone are the lifetimes of seeking permission. That's your north node.
Seeking permission.
You're a natural born trendsetter, also the seven of spades.
Mm.
You know, still people love you. That's your eight of hearts, right? Each of these is attached to a card.
Mm.
And so what I find is when I look at the cards, they speak a language to me, and then that's how it all comes out. So it is exactly what you're doing. You're looking at a chart, and then you're able to say and beautifully articulate. Like I would not, I would not say anything but positive affirmations about what you were able um, to share when you looked at my chart. So thank you for that.
Okay, okay, good. Oh, but it just that, oh, it's just, oh, I really like that. Receiving such a letter of love. And I can see how that would, be the framework for a really deep conversation in client work. So yeah, that's really beautiful. And isn't it amazing? I mean, that it's all right there in the cards, in the stars. And then that's what I call therapy, is what you do for the next couple of hours, with clients, is like, okay, let's dive into this. Let's talk and let's understand deeper, because everything has nuances to it.
Yeah. And then so at the end of every reading and what I do at events and shorter readings is I do an intuitive reading or what some would call a divination reading.
Okay.
And so that's where I tie it all together. So we look at like the astrology chart, the hand that you've been dealt in the forecast in the transit chart. And then I ask the cards for any additional guidance. And so that's where more of the mystical, magical part comes, where it seems like there's more of a psychic sensitivity that's able to come through.
Mm, beautiful. Yeah, don't you think that this whole thing about neurodivergence, that it has to do with psychic sensitivity?
100%.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And it's taken a long time to learn what is my own and what am I experiencing from somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to now work with people in a whole new way, especially when let's say somebody a relative of theirs comes to visit in a session.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time I didn't know how to handle that because all of a sudden I'm flushed or I'm having heart palpitations or a headache comes on, and I'm not able to I wasn't able to work with that until I did the proper training. You know,
Okay.
sometimes you can jump into these practices a little bit quickly,
Yeah.
especially when when you have this blast off awakening
Yeah.
moment, and all of a sudden your sensitivity that was already pretty intense just is uh, increased exponentially. And so it's taken some time to understand those sensitivities and not always attach them to my own experience.
Yeah, I think I get you completely. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how can I know, but I just really resonate with what you're saying. And for myself, it's that's kind of a field that I'm into right now, training mediumship actually. And I never thought that I would. Uh, and just with all of the astrology and everything, I thought that should be it. But it's a combined field. There are many different energies, and when you want to help people, I think it's good that you're working on several planes, or have you have open channels and you know what to do. So yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds
and I love that direction for you because remember what I said in the beginning, you are born to adjust the way we receive the unseen.
yeah.
That is a psychic sensitivity.
Mm, wow.
But it's when we think psychic sensitivity, we always just go for the brain. We
Mm,
always just go, oh, maybe I can just see this screen like a Laura Lynn Jackson, the famous medium and psychic, and she sees a TV screen in front of her, and people come up and she smells things, right? There's all the clairs. What the cards have allowed me to see is the way that everybody has their own language with the unseen, but
yeah.
how they work with that language is different. So the seven of spades is much more of a sensation. There's a physical sensation that you're able to start to learn and articulate through time. And that takes going through your own obstacles and knowing what those feel like, and then being able to arrange them in a way that you can then share it with others so it makes sense for them.
Mm, oh
Some of
man.
us are able to take the material world, a sixth sense for the material world, and say, oh, I see these numbers and these patterns. That means this. I'm going to share that with the person who I feel like who's meant to hear it.
Mm. Yeah, that's what I mean. But like, there are different channels here. So the more open you are, and I think when we are, like you said, when we are open, then we can sense it. But then knowing what to do, I think that takes a lot of what I see in your chat as well, like this discipline and like training and working at the skills constantly.
Yeah.
Right. Oh man, Matt Powers, aka Powers, it says on your website.
Yeah.
Powers. So, do what do you want to leave the listener with here in the end? It's been whoa, so good to meet you. So, whatever you feel there's in your heart to say still.
One of the things that I try to remind myself is actually a verse from the Bible, Ecclesiastes, and it says, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun."
Yeah,
And I'll leave it at that.
I'll leave it at that. Great. I will tell you that I recently did an interview on Ecclesiastics. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, someone who published a book about it.
I wrote down I wrote down something that that Craig had said,
Yeah,
and
that's
I loved this, so I wanted to mention this because it put into words something that I have felt very much aligned with. And he was talking about truth seeking
yeah.
and how devaluing and what he feels like he's trying to do is devalue the notion of truth and uplift the value of living.
Hmm.
And I thought that was so beautiful.
Mhm.
I really, really loved his, that message. I mean, everything that he said was like a poem, actually. So, just such a beautiful mind he has.
I'm glad you think so because I also felt like I should have taken notes. Like there was so much in
So,
those
yeah,
lines
yeah,
for
he had a
me.
lot of beauty there. But that's what I think, the idea of truth confining us, and that's why I always like to say, everything that I'm saying is just trying to expand the realm of possibility
Yeah.
versus trying to come to some sort of objective truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's the higher version of you, of Aquarius. Yes. Expanding the room. Thank you so much, Matt Powers. I really hope to see you again because I think this is ever unfolding, the stuff that we've been talking about today.
Yeah. Well,
So
thank you so much for having me.
thank you.